Always the new atheists say infinity answers everything. You're a mathematician. Infinite possibilities answer everything. What do you say to that?
I've never heard an atheist say that. But what you probably mean is that in the days before they believed in a finite time backwards to space-time or whatever, that they thought that given infinite time, whatever that means, plus chance, you'd get anything. But that's gone now. I don't find people making that argument. But perhaps if you make it a bit more precise in some area.
No, I'm a lawyer. I don't do that. Never make anything.
Bill, let's bring Bill in.
One area it comes up would be one I've alluded to already, the appeal to the multiverse.
Yes.
The multiverse doesn't
Bill.
need to be infinite in time.
No.
As long as you have an infinite number of parallel worlds, universes in this world ensemble. And by multiplying your probabilistic resources, you increase the chances to one of having intelligent life somewhere in that world ensemble. If you have many roulette wheels spinning at the same time, you're much more likely to get the winning number than if it's just one wheel. So
that's what I understand atheists to be arguing now.
Yes, I think that at least with respect to the design argument, honestly, this is where the heart of the controversy is today. It is design versus the world ensemble or multiverse hypothesis,
versus
which
infinity.
Are two metaphysical hypotheses, extraordinary metaphysical hypotheses that are at the heart of the debate over this today.
And so how does one prefer one of those premises over the other?
Well, I would say two things about that. First, I would say that whereas we have independent evidence for the existence of God, we have no independent evidence of the existence of a world ensemble or multiverse, much less that it's infinite in number and randomly ordered. George Ellis, who is probably the world's most famous cosmologist, University of South Africa in Cape Town, has said that we cannot and do not have either direct or indirect evidence of other worlds, of multiverse scenarios. They are metaphysical in nature. But secondly, there's this tremendous objection that faces multiverse explanations that Roger Penrose at Oxford University has raised, namely this, that a world in which just a tiny patch of order exists, enough for our existence, say the size of the solar system, is incomprehensibly more probable than a finely tuned universe. And therefore, in the world ensemble, if we are just a random member of that world ensemble, we ought to be observing a universe like that tiny patch of order, because there are simply vastly incomprehensibly more universes that are observable like that than finely tuned universes. So the fact that we don't have those sorts of observations strongly disconfirms the multiverse hypothesis.
Now, I'm fairly certain that this audience and the online audience wants this explained in depth. They want to understand the multiverse response. So JP and John, I want you both to take a whack at it.
Okay, so the problem for the atheist is that we've discovered that there are a number of constants of nature and other factors that are fine-tuned. And what that means is that their physical magnitude, let's say the charge on an electron, if it were slightly larger or slightly smaller, on the order of a very small percentage change either way, you can't get any kind of life in the universe. So that when you add these factors up, there are several of them, it becomes extremely improbable in a mind-boggling kind of way that this universe could have just happened by chance and be a life-permitting universe. It looks like, as one person put it, the dice were rigged ahead of time so that life could take place. And by the way, we do explain things like that all the time. We find improbable things that come together, and we will often explain them as the result of personal agency. The action of a personal agent can explain situations like that. Now, if you want to avoid that solution, what you want to postulate is that there is an infinite number of parallel universes. And you might want to think about it like this. Suppose that you went into a room and it was a universe generating room. And you knew that this room generated universes. And you noticed that there were 30 dials in the room. And they were huge. And each dial had 10,000 settings on it. But on each dial, there was just a hairline where it was colored black. And in order for a universe to permit life, the dial had to be, each of those 30 dials had to be set on its black place, and if it were set anywhere else, there's no life. And you came in and looked at that room, and you saw all those dials with the myriads of possibilities for them to be set in different places, and they were all set in just the right place for life to appear. You'd say this was done on purpose. But the multiverse allows us to say, well, there's going to be an infinite number of worlds, and so we can vary the charge on an electron from one world to the next, same with a mass of a proton, and sooner or later, you're going to get a world just because of the probabilities where there's going to be life there. And it's not surprising that we're in that world, because if we weren't in that world, we'd be dead and wouldn't be talking about it. And there are other problems that with the multiverse theory. I think Bill's two are really, really good ones, but it's got additional problems.
And I want to make sure that you speak to the multiverse problem, Dr. Lennox, or the answer that has been provided.
Well, my instinctive reaction is it is the biggest violation of the principle of Occam's razor we've ever seen. In other words, that principle that we normally use in science and in our investigation, that we keep the number of hypotheses as small as possible. And I was taught quantum physics at Cambridge by John Polkinghorne, who's been all his life an extreme skeptic of this kind of thing. And I'm interested that even Sir Martin Rees, our astronomer royal, who's written a book about this, and he talks about some people like Polkinghorne believe in a creator. And then he says, I prefer to believe in a multiverse. Right. Now that's not a scientific statement. The other thing is we need to be careful of a false alternative. Because Max Tegmark, who was one of the early proposers at Princeton of the multiverse theory, said there's either a God or a multiverse. But logically that's false, of course. God can create as many universes as he likes. And a book I know moderately well seems to indicate there's more than this one.
Speaking of books, I want to take the opportunity to ask the question that I heard.
Remark?
It's a book I know, the Bible, seems to indicate there's more than this one.
Oh!
You are about to...
Philosophers don't read the Bible.
Okay.
I should also say that one of Stephen Hawking's co-workers is a Canadian Christian, a distinguished professor of physics called Don Page. And when I was writing my little book about Stephen Hawking, in which I talk a little bit about the multiverse, I wrote to him. And it was very interesting what he said. He gave me permission to reproduce it. But he's a believer, a Christian, and he believes in the multiverse theory. So it's not an alternative God or the multiverse. So no matter what you believe about it, you can't deduce the non-existence of God from it.
Actually, I think theism is the best hope for the existence of a multiverse.
Yes.
Because, as you say, an omnipotent God could create as many universes as he wants. But on naturalism, it is highly, highly improbable that we should be observing a finely tuned universe. It is incomprehensibly
Would you
more
explain the term
probable.
naturalism for the benefit of...
Atheism.
Think of the Steelers fans always. Okay.
If there's no God, then it is incomprehensibly more probable, if we are a random member of a multiverse, that we ought to be observing a world that is just a tiny patch of order that permits us to observe it, rather than an entire universe that's fine-tuned, because those little tiny patches are simply incomprehensibly more probable than finely tuned universes. So if you throw a dart at the observable universes in the multiverse, in all probability, you're going to hit a very tiny patch of order, not a world like this.
Let me ask Dr. Lennox, because many people know your